Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton has announced that he is suing a Catholic non-governmental organisation operating in Texas named Annunciation House. He alleges that it is encouraging illegal immigration and even operating a stash house for those entering illegally. Joining me now to discuss is Newsweek Senior Editor-at-Large and host of the Josh Hammer Show, Josh Hammer. Josh, this organisation describes itself as a volunteer operation that offers hospitality to migrants, immigrants and refugees in El Paso, Texas. But it seems they're doing a bit more than that.
Yeah, it does. Look, Rita, you're not allowed to abet those who would violate the law. And, one of the great ironies, one of the great understated things when it comes to America's immigration discourse is that we have all this talk about illegal aliens, or heck, maybe we should call them just undocumented workers, to use the rhetoric of the day when it comes to the left. Their very first act when it comes to getting in this country is a crime. It is a crime to cross the border without permission, without authorization to do so. So if you are an NGO, if you are an organization, if you are a corporation, if you are an individual person, if you are an 18, 19-year-old United States adult, and you are aiding and abetting those who are trying to commit a crime, which again, crossing the border is, then you are liable to face repercussions for that. So good for Attorney General Ken Paxton. Ken Paxton is actually a very controversial figure, not just in America at large, but also within the conservative movement. I happen to be a longtime big fan of his for reasons just like this. Ken Paxton is not afraid to wield the political power that is vested in his particular political office to try to punish the forces of civilizational arson and to try to boost the forces of civilizational sanity. And, in America's long, roiling, cold, but at times sometimes getting slightly hot culture war and, frankly, cold civil war, we need people like Paxton on our side. And what's happening in Texas is unprecedented, Rita, in American history. We've all seen the footage. It's absolutely horrible. It is absolutely horrific. And, this charity in El Paso, they might think that they're acting in humanitarian fashion. They might think that they are helping people, but who's being harmed by illegal immigration? It's all the other people of Texas. It's those who are competing against illegal aliens for jobs. It's those whose wages are being suppressed. It's those whose safety is being undermined and jeopardized on a day in, day out basis. It's the shelters. It's the hospitals. It's all those whose services are being strained by these criminals, by these trespassers, by these lawbreakers. So I say good for Ken Paxton, and also good for his boss, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, who is continuing now weeks into this fight with the federal government. Greg Abbott actually doubled down earlier this week, said that he is not going to back down from having the Texas Rangers and the Texas Department of Public Safety secure the southern border. That is Texas's right as a sovereign entity in our federal system of government. Good for the state of Texas. They are leading the way right now.
Absolutely. And I don't know, there's a lot of Ron DeSantis about Ken Paxton. I've been watching his work as well. He just does practical stuff. He does the hard stuff to make meaningful change. And then the numbers in the US, just astonishing. More than 7 million have crossed illegally into the country under the Biden administration. You think about 7 million, that's bigger than the population of big cities. I mean, it is transformative and it needs to stop. Now, Josh, the fallout from this farcical ruling against Trump in New York continues. We've spoken about the truckers boycott on this program before, and experts warning it could have businesses thinking twice about investing in what is a banana republic state when it comes to lawfare. And here is a prime example of that. Grant Cardone, boss of Cardone Capital, he's going to discontinue all underwriting in New York real estate. He wrote, immediately discontinue all underwriting on New York real estate. The risk outweighs the opportunities at this time. Josh, how little trust do people have in the justice system in America? From afar, it looks to be hopelessly politicized and weaponized in some cases.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Look, I mean, I'm a lawyer by background. I went to law school. I worked at a big law firm. I clerked for a federal appeals court, for a federal appeals judge back in Texas, back in the year 2018. And I still speak at law schools all across America, for that matter. And, it's not an easy thing for someone with my background, based on what I just said. It's not easy for someone like me to kind of just sigh and say, you know what, it's really kind of lost. And I'm not saying it's lost, but we are really, really far down the rabbit hole at this point, Rita. And unfortunately, there's really not a ton of glimmers of hope at this present moment, because what's happening to Donald Trump in particular when it comes to the Democrats' sprawling, unprecedented, uncharted waters lawfare operation. I mean, look at what's happening in New York with this so-called fraud ruling from Justice Arthur and Goron in this Tish James. First of all, Tish James, the Attorney General of New York, when she ran for Attorney General of New York, she literally ran on the campaign stump on a Get Trump platform. She was telling you that when I get there, I'm gonna do everything I can to try to get him in jail, try to bankrupt him, try to do whatever it takes. That is completely un-American. It's the definition of being un-American. In fact, in the American Constitution, we have a prohibition on what was known as so-called bills of attainder, which is pieces of legislation that actually name someone. You can't have a bill that is targeting someone
No.
here. So why would you be able to then run for office and just target someone on the campaign trail? It's ridiculous. $460+ million, including backdated interest payments. Absolutely disgusting. So you take that, you combine it with the actual criminal prosecutions. So there's 4 criminal prosecutions. You add that to the ballot access challenge, this recent Supreme Court case for which we are still now awaiting a ruling in the Trump versus Anderson case, this appeal out of Colorado to see whether they can even deny him a place on the ballot outright. It's absolutely unreal. So whether it is bankrupting him, whether it is prosecuting him, whether it is denying ballot access, whether it is God knows what else, they're literally leaving no stone unturned whatsoever to try to deprive him from being the 47th president of the United States after, God willing, Joe Biden finishes his presidency this November. It's absolutely appalling, Rita. And at this point, I've said it many times, I'll say it again on your show right now. If Republicans have any intention whatsoever of fighting back against this lawfare, unfortunately, they're going to have to get their hands a little dirty and get in the business of trying to take some high-profile scalps on the other side as well. Such tactics like that, they might seem a little unnatural for Republicans who talk a lot about neutral enforcement of the law, but you have to rebalance the pendulum. And sometimes you're going to have to bloody some noses on the other side in order to then reach a mutually agreeable long-term standoff.